Some places remembers us the way old friends do, not by face, but by the small habits we leave behind. Tonight's story is about a cafe that remembered one man's order long after he stopped coming, and the woman who came to keep a promise she made over a cup of bitter coffee. If you like the gentle stories about second chances and quiet devotion, subscribe and pull a chair up to the counter. This one smells like espresso and rain. The cafe sat on the corner where two streets met and forget their names. Cornerstone Lane was a sort of place where world moved slowly because everyone there liked it that way. The sign swaying quietly, Martha's Cafe and quiet. The windows had fogged from the weather and the warmth inside. The handwritten chalkboard outside advertised a soup and a slice of carrot cake. Martha herself had run this place for 25 years. She had silver hair pulled into a bun and a laugh that made people feel seen. She knew every regular, not by social media, but by the clack of their shoes. She knew Tom, who took his cafe black and read the paper backward. Jess, who always left a quarter on the tip tray for someone in need. And old Mrs. Archer, who came for the lemon drizzle and sat by the window as if she were holding the weather in place. Then there was the table by the back window, rounded and scarred with decades of rings from the cups. It was an unremarkable table, but if you asked Martha, she would tell you it had a name, Arthur's table. Arthur had been a kind of regular who mattered without being loud about it. He'd come every Thursday morning at precisely 10:15 a.m., ordered the same thing, double filter, an extra teaspoon of sugar, no milk, and sat with a blue covered notebook where he wrote lists of things he wanted to remember. He had been retired, thin in the winter and steady in the summer. He loved small things, paper bookmarks, the hiss of streaming milk, the way the light fell at noon. One spring morning, 5 years ago, Arthur stopped coming. Martha called, then sent a postcard, then went to the small flat above the bakery where you'd once told her his life story between sips. The landlord said Arthur had moved to be the nearer to his son. For a while they expected him back during a holiday, a birthday, or a stubborn little rain. He did not return, but the table knew him. The place that kept him didn't do loyalty cards or digital reminders. It kept the memory of his orders. The slight indentation on the chair, the way his napkin folded when he was writing urgently, and it kept his notebook, which Martha found tucked under the table the week after he left. The first page was a list, things to remember, Feed the cat Tuesday, call Louise, don't forget the seeds. Martha kept the notebook on the shelf near the cash till. Sometimes she would open it and read a line and smile, and sometimes she would close it and pretend she hadn't. Places learn faster than we do. They keep our habits like small, trusted seeds and wait until someone comes to plant them again. On an afternoon when rain made the sidewalks look like washed photographs, a woman walked into Martha's cafe carrying a bag that had seen better days and looking like someone who had been on a long walk with a quiet purpose. Her name was Lucy Hart. She had come to the city to answer a letter. It wasn't a legal summons or a job offer. It was a short note folded in an envelope, browned at the edges, and stamped hurriedly with a date. Open in case you remember him. Inside, in a careful script, were three lines and an address: Martha's Cafe, Thursday, 10:15. Take the blue covered notebook. The letter had been tucked into the box of her late aunt's things, things Lucy had been sorting through since the funeral. The note was addressed to her aunt, but the handwriting was her uncle's, Arthur's. The same Arthur Martha had remembered. The note's existence was a small mystery. Arthur had left town quietly and had not been heard from much since. The letter was dated 5 years ago. Lucy wasn't sure why any of this mattered to her. She hadn't known Arthur well. She was her uncle by marriage, a quiet presence at family dinners, always with a smile that said she'd heard the joke before and still wanted to smile. After the funeral, while clearing the attic, she found the envelope tucked in an old cookbook. The instruction to open in case you remember him made her feel as if there was a contract with her past she hadn't signed. She slipped the letter into her pocket and decided to go find Martha's cafe. Lucy pushed open the door and the bell chimed like an apology. The place smelled of cinnamon and brewed coffee. Patrons looked up with that friendly neutrality of places that don't rush you. Martha stood behind the counter, pouring cream into a porcelain cup. She looked up as Lucy approached and smiled like she'd known her for years. "Can I help you?" Martha asked. I I have a letter, Lucy said, slightly breathless. She explained awkwardly about her aunt, the curious note, the lines about the blue covered notebook. It says to take the notebook. It's for you. Martha's face went soft. She wiped her hands and reached under the counter. Her fingers came up with the blue notebook, the little frayed at the edges and with a bookmark sticking out. It had been kept like a secret within a secret. But the cafe knew where his own memories lived. Arthur would have liked that you kept a promise she almost forgot to make. Martha said, "Sit, Thursday at 10:15. That's when he liked his coffee. Lucy sat at Arthur's table, the very table at the back, and felt the world wide as if the cafe itself were holding its breath. She opened the notebook to the first page. Arthur's handwriting was small but neat. His lists were ordinary things, and the margins were filled with short lines like remember to say hello to mailmen. Ask Lucy if she's okay. Don't forget the seats. There was, at the back of the notebook, an envelope. Inside it was another note, much shorter, in the same hand. If you come, tell her I loved the way she always hummed when she read recipes out loud. Tell her I kept the radio on when the nights were cold. No signature, no address. Lucy felt a kind of tremble, the recognition of being remembered by someone who had been more neighbor than family. She had never been where Arthur lived, and the cafe's warmth trickled down her spine like permission. Sometimes the things a person remembers in another's hand is a single small kindness they couldn't name until someone read it back to them. Lucy asked Martha about the woman in the note who hummed while reading recipes, who cared for cold nights. Martha's eyes went a little misty. Her name was Evelyn, she said. She ran the bakery next door for years, loved ginger biscuits, asked to hum all afternoon while icing cakes. Arthur always said her hum could mend a torn list. Lucy's chest tightened. Evelyn was Lucy's aunt. She had called her Eve, but since being widowed, she had stopped going to the bakery. She had given the shop to a nephew and moved into the countryside where the world slowed its clocks. Lucy realized all at once that the note had been meant to reconnect her to someone who she had thought he had lost the right to find. Do you think she would come? Lucy asked. If she kept the recipe book, she will come. People who hum over recipes usually keep the sound in their pockets until they can't resist sharing it. Martha, Martha's reassurance was small and certain. Stay, you will have time. We are gentle with Thursdays. Lucy stayed. She drank her coffee slowly, reading more of the notebook. Arthur's writing had a rhythm. Little joys recorded like recipes for life. Morning light on the windowsill, 8:12. The mailman whistles the same tune, remembers to tell Lucy about the seed packet left on the windowsill. The final line on the page that had been written 5 years before read, if you ever find this, tell Lucy the seeds sprout faster than you bury them with company. The rain lighted into a fine mist. People came and went. The cafe was a little island of ordinary warmth, and Lucy felt tethered to something she hadn't yet named, a promise made, a circle incomplete. On the next Thursday, Lucy returned. She sat at the table and opened the notebook. After an hour, the door chimed and a woman entered. She was older than Lucy had expected, hair silver at the temples, hands softened by work. She had a paper bag, the kind bakers' hands have, flour on the fingers, the faint scent of yeast. Evelyn paused at the threshold as if the cafe itself had recognized her. Martha ran forward, and they embraced with a familiarity of people who had been shared sugar bowls and neighborhood disputes. Lucy watched from her table as Evelyn's eyes drifted towards the back window. When she saw the blue notebook on the shelf, something like a smile broke on her face, and without a word, she crossed the room and sat at Arthur's table. Evelyn opened the notebook and read a line aloud, voice catching. Tell Lucy I love the way she always hummed when she read recipes out loud. Lucy stood up before the sentence finished. Her voice was small. Aunt Eve? Evelyn looked up. For a moment, their eyes met, and there was a quick, dizzy recognition, a threaded memory made visible. Evelyn rose slowly, came around the table, and took Lucy's hands. My girl, she said, you kept his note. Lucy felt 100 small things open inside her chest. They talked like relatives too, cautious at first, then as if opening curtains. Arthur was explained and unexplained in the same breath why he had left, where he tried to go, the small reasons people pack up more than luggage. Evelyn spoke softly of days with Arthur, of a radio always on, of a shared love for seed packets. Arthur loved to plant the tiny things that watched them begin life in the window boxes. And of the way Arthur scribed lists to keep the world from slipping away. He was always making lists, Evelyn said. Little anchors. She touched the papers like they were fragile with pastry. They sat together until rain lost its appetite and the streetlights took the place of the day. The cafe's light washed them in a gentle old-time color. When Lucy left, she had a small packet in her pocket, a warm paper envelope with 3 seed packets tucked inside. On the outside, in Arthur's handwriting, someone had written, for Lucy, plant when you want to remember him with your hands. People plant things as if the ground is the past and the seed is forgiven. You bury it with attention and wait. That's how we teach ourselves to grow again. That evening, Lucy went to the small allotment behind her aunt's cottage, a patch of earth that had been scraped clean of ambition for a while. She dug a small hole and placed a seed in the dark like a secret. She thought about Arthur, reading his lists by the window, about the radio he had kept on for cold nights, about the way he saved the place in the cafe for anyone who needed a chair. The days after, Lucy watered the patch as if paying attention was a kind of liturgy. People from this area, regulars who had watched Martha and Arthur like gentle guardians of the block, asked after her at the shop. She planted the seeds while she hummed a recipe her aunt had once read aloud. It felt right and ridiculous and utterly human. On the first warm morning, she went to the allotment and found little green tongues breaking the soil. Tears came without warning. It felt like discovery, small green proofs that some promises were not just polite gestures but engines of life. She began coming to Martha's cafe on Thursdays, not because a letter told her to, but because she had found a way to keep a soul company by tending what he had loved, his lists, his seeds, his small routines. Arthur's table was no longer a shrine, it was a seat with a soft place for visitors. A month later, a letter arrived pinned to the cafe door by the landlord. The area had been sold to developers. The note said that the block where Martha's cafe sat would be refaced and modernized, and a new chain would occupy the place. There would be no more Martha's sign swinging in the rain. The news wailed through the cornerstone lane like a winter wind. Evelyn sat back with her coffee and held her hands calmly. But Lucy felt a hot rush of helplessness surge up like a spring flood. How do you stop change when it walks into like bulldozers? How do you argue with a plan that sits a building with a profit margin? The regulars gathered in the corner like a small church of people who had been married to the place. Martha refused to be sentimental in front of them. She simply said, with an economy of sadness, "We have time to ask for more time." They decided to petition, to write letters, to gather signatures. They made flyers. They baked the most convincing lemon drizzle cakes. They did what small towns do when they mean to stay. They turned their coffee talk into the argument that required an opinion and had carried it to the doors of people with pains and bigger lunch budgets. Lucy spent late nights sitting at Arthur's table with a blue notebook open between them and writing notes to the council. She read Arthur's list and added a sentence, and he liked the way the sun hit through the front window at 9 o'clock in the morning. Don't take that. She pasted a line from Arthur's list in the flyer. Seed sprouts faster when buried with company. It sounded ridiculous in the printed sheet, but everybody laughed, and the laughter made signatures look friendlier. They gathered at the council meeting on the dump Thursday. People from Cornerstone Lane filled the chairs in a way that make the municipal room smell of tea and resolve. Lucy read from Arthur's notebook aloud, voice steady, though the words shook her. She read his last and read details by detail of ordinary life he had built. She read the note to her aunt about humming over recipes and the way he had kept the radio on and the seats in the window. There was a silence, the size of commitment when she finished. Then the woman from the planning board asked simply, "Why does this matter?" Martha answered without fuse, "Because this is where we learned how to be kind." The board debated finances and foot traffic and zoning laws, but when they voted, something rare happened. The developer agreed to redesign around the cafe. They would keep the facade, the sign, and the table by the window. They called it heritage retention, a phrase that tasted like compromise and luck. The cafe had been saved in small, practical ways. People went back to Martha's with the triumph of those who had resisted the erasure of an ordinary life. On the morning, the scaffolding came down and the new window shone like careful promise. Martha placed Arthur's blue notebook on the table and invited the community to write. The notebook became less of a relic and more of a communal ledger. Thoughts, recipes, small favors all recorded in the back and front. Lucy visited every Thursday and sometimes on days when there was no reason to be there except the coffee and the warmth of friends. She brought her aunt a warm slice of cake and the two of them hummed recipes into the afternoon. The tiny plants in the allotment grew taller. Children from the neighborhood were given seeds to plant with their parents. The seeds spread like small green faith. Arthur's table remained around and scattered, but it now had a new story etched adding to the old. A story of a quiet man who loved lists and a small woman who still hummed, and a nice who came to keep the promise. Sometimes some people think promises are words, but promises can be seats and chairs, and the way someone sets the radio when the nights get cold. Lucy didn't just answer a note. She learned how to be the kind of person someone else could remember. That's the point of community and of love, tending what someone else planted until it grows into more than a memory. If tonight's story made you want to write a small list of plant one tiny seeds, subscribe and bring your watering can tomorrow. We will sit and read each other's lists.